So if 160,000 people had died on President Obama's watch, do you think you would have called for his resignation?
No, I wouldn't have done that. I think it's been amazing what we've been able to do. If we didn't close up our country, we would have had 1.5 or 2 million people already dead. We've called it right. Now we don't have to close it. We understand the disease. Nobody understood it because nobody's ever seen anything like this. The closest thing is in 1917, they say, right? The great pandemic certainly was a terrible thing where they lost anywhere from 50 to 100 million people. Probably ended the Second World War. All the soldiers were sick. That was a terrible situation, and this is highly contagious. This one is highly, highly contagious. No, if I would have listened to a lot of people, we would have kept it open. And by the way, we keep it open now, all the way. We keep it open. But we would have kept it open, and you could be up to 1.5 million or 2 million people right now. 1.5 to 2 million people. Our people have done a fantastic job. Our consultants and our doctors, and with disagreements and with a lot of things happening. What we've done with ventilators has been amazing. What we've done with medical equipment has been incredible. We've supplied the governors. Nobody, not one person in this country that needed a ventilator didn't get it. And at the beginning, there was a big shortage of ventilators. Nobody had stockpiles or anything comparable to what you had to have. So we would have lost, if you think about it, you had mentioned 160,000 people. Multiply that times 10 right now. I think it would have been unsustainable and unacceptable. But that's what would have happened had we kept it open. So, no, I think we're a very large country. We are one person. I said all the time, a lot of people like to leave that out. One person is too many. It should have never happened. But they've done really an extraordinary job. They'll never be given the credit, and I'm not talking about me. The people that have worked on this so hard will never be given the credit, but they've done an extraordinary job with a very large, diverse country. Really an extraordinary job. And a lot of the governors who, as you know, they sort of do the micro in their states, and they go up, and I think I can tell you that a lot of the governors have done an extraordinary job too. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you heard that correctly. Trump says that no, he wouldn't call for Obama's resignation if Obama oversaw 160,000 deaths, and follows up with, I think it's amazing what we've been able to do. He thinks it's amazing that his response to the pandemic has led to 160,000 dead Americans and counting. He thinks it's amazing that he's presided over an event deadlier than the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Revolutionary War, and 9/11 combined. The only events deadlier in the history of the United States are World War II, the Civil War, and the 1918 pandemic, which Trump thinks happened in 1917. That is what Trump considers, and I quote, amazing. Now, I don't know who needs to hear this, but no, what Trump has done with his response to this outbreak was not amazing, unless he's talking about the extent to which this administration stands out in its failure to act. Being able to watch as tens of thousands of Americans were dying by the week and still doing nothing, that is amazing. Being able to witness other countries establishing testing and contact tracing systems that were successful and deciding regardless that it wasn't necessary here, that is amazing. Being able to watch doctors and nurses use garbage bags because there isn't enough PPE and still refusing to invoke the Defense Production Act immediately, that is amazing. Knowing that masks are essentially the most effective tool we have at our disposal to contain the spread of this virus, and yet still being too stubborn to set a good example for the country, that is amazing. Trump's response was certainly remarkable, but not at all in the way he's playing it off as. By the way, you want to know how I'm so sure that if Obama was overseeing the deaths of 160,000 Americans, that Trump would have not only called for his resignation, but probably for him to be in prison? It's because when Obama actually did oversee a pandemic where only one person died, Trump literally did call for his resignation. He tweeted, quote, "If this doctor who so recklessly flew into New York from West Africa has Ebola, then Obama should apologize to the American people and resign." And that was for one person. And there wasn't even a death at that point. That's how high Trump's bar apparently was in 2014. Just the possibility of spreading a contagion was worthy of a presidential resignation. And yet now, after 160,000 dead Americans, Trump considers this an amazing job. Got it. And to top off the bad faith, self-congratulatory diatribe, Trump goes on to suggest that without his brilliant action, there could have been 1.5 to 2 million people dead. What he doesn't explain is that that's the estimate had he done literally nothing at all. He's throwing himself a parade for not having done nothing, as if that's the bar. To be clear, we're already not far off from him having done nothing. We have no nationwide testing or contact tracing systems, no nationwide mask mandate, and the governors who did try to enact protections were actually undermined by this president. There was, of course, Trump's precious China ban, a ban that still allowed 40,000 people into the country from China anyway. And because so little was done, we have the most cases and the most deaths in the world. And had those Democratic governors, along with a few notable Republican exceptions, not taken the steps they did take, we probably would have had 1.5 to 2 million deaths, meaning that Trump should probably be thanking the very people who he spent months attacking. The guy literally says that had we reached 1.5 million deaths, that number would have been, quote, unsustainable and unacceptable, meaning that he thinks the 160,000 deaths we have now is perfectly acceptable. And let's not kid ourselves, even if we did hit 1.5 million deaths, Trump would simply move the goalposts. If you know anything about Donald Trump, you know that he will never take responsibility for anything that's gone wrong, no matter how bad it gets. And just so we're clear, it doesn't get much worse than this. The fact is that regardless of Trump's endless praise for himself, his response to this pandemic has been, by any measure, an unmitigated disaster. And had Obama done a fraction, 1/1000th of what Trump has done here, we'd be hearing for his resignation on an endless loop, most notably from Donald Trump himself. And don't forget to listen to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll take a deep dive into the biggest issues of the week and interview major players in the world of politics, like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.